I like fantasy football. You like fantasy football. Let's have a draft. All right, welcome to a special live streaming of backsportspage.com. We have our staff fantasy football draft tonight. Should be getting underway. You see if you're watching it live, we got the timer ticking down. We are now under 4 minutes until the start of the draft. I'm your host, Ryan Stern. I am the host of the Zero Technique Football Podcast, along with Jared Zero and a couple other guys that we have coming in and out from backsportspage.com. You can follow me on social media at rstern33. Make sure you're following backsportspage.com on all social media platforms and checking out backsportspage.com for all of the amazing web show and podcast archives that are up there. Got some great shows that we've been putting out on a constant basis. You can find my show on Wednesday nights. We do a live stream on the Backsports Page Facebook account and YouTube account, so make sure you are subscribing to both of those, and you'll be able to. Oh, here we go. Oh, these. Sorry, Brad. Love you, Brad, but we don't need to show everyone these videos. But yeah, definitely make sure you are following on social media, on YouTube and Facebook, because our shows do stream live on those platforms before they hit all podcast platforms out there. So we're about 2 minutes before the draft. Let me bring this up a little bit. You can see right now I am picking out of the 7 spot. I like picking towards the end of the first round. I know if you've watched or listened to the podcast any time recently, you'll know that I do like the end of the first round. I just find the values end up matching my particular draft strategy as I'm coming into the season. 7 is a little earlier than I do prefer, but I still think I'll be able to get value at the positions I am looking for. This is going to be a 12-team PPR league. It is a 6-point per touchdown league, and everything is pretty standard, except it's 1 quarterback, 2 receiver, 2 running back, 1 tight end, 2 flex, and a defense, and no kickers, because kickers are the dumbest thing to happen to fantasy football. So since I am the commissioner of this league, I decided on my own merit to get rid of the kickers because I could. So we are looking at number 1. Obviously, I think most people are expecting Christian McCaffrey to go in the 101. I've seen things go in a different way, but in 98% of the drafts I've seen, especially in a 1 quarterback league, it's just really tough to pass up on the value of Christian McCaffrey there at the 101. We are now 10 seconds until the start of the draft. We will be bringing in some of the staff members to talk about their teams as the draft goes along. We can find out some of the strategies, whether or not they were able to get the players they were coveting at certain spots of the draft. All right, so I'm going to enlarge this so we can see the draft board. And yes, we have Christian McCaffrey did go number 1 overall. Now number 2, Saquon Barkley does go number 2. That's a very common one. Oh, and there we go. Our first surprise of the draft at the number 3 spot. We have Russell Wilson. Again, one quarterback league, I tend to steer clear of the quarterbacks early on, but we all know, and Russell Wilson, we've been hearing the talks about them, quote, letting Russ cook. But then after Russ goes Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And so now I'm on the clock, so I'll bring up the draft board. So my draft strategy tends to be running back early, and as we get later in the draft, that's when I tend to look into the wide receivers. Obviously, here at number 7, Michael Thomas still on the board is very, very intriguing, but I'm still going to pass on him. This is a PPR league, so I don't necessarily like Derrick Henry as much. The guy that I'm going to go with, and I apologize to Jared. I know he was looking forward to drafting him, but I absolutely, especially he's getting paid. I love Joe Mixon. I really think Joe Mixon is going to have a real breakout season. They are ushering in a rookie quarterback, so I have a feeling they're going to be leaning on the running game, especially earlier on in the season. So I do decide to go with Joe Mixon there. And then after I took Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry goes off the board. Now, this is, again, where you want to know the scoring system. And Derrick Henry, no one's going to take away what Derrick Henry means to the Titans offense. He just doesn't catch the ball enough for him to hold value over certain other players. I was also looking at Dalvin Cook. I'm not feeling it with Dalvin Cook. It's just a personal preference. But to see Dalvin Cook still on the board here, and Ahmed takes the guy I was hoping was going to fall back to me in the second round with Josh Jacobs. And Dalvin Cook then does go off the board at pick number 10. And now Tyrone is on the clock. And I mean, at 111, he gets Michael Thomas falling into his lap. I mean, part of that is my fault because I did pass up on him. But again, a lot of it is because I tend to, if I can find value in running back in the first 2 rounds, that's where I'm going to look. I'm also giving away my draft strategy if the other people in the draft are watching this as we're drafting. Devonta Adams closes out the first round, and Tyreek Hill goes in the second round. In the second round at the first pick. Nick Chubb goes to Tyrone, so he starts off the draft with Michael Thomas and Nick Chubb. That's a pretty good start. Jared gets Dalvin Cook, and he follows it up with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is as safe as it comes in a PPR. 90 catches last year. We don't know what the offense is going to look like with Tyrod Taylor and or Justin Herbert. But again, Austin Eckler got paid, and you tend, with running backs, you tend to follow where the money goes. They decided to let Melvin Gordon walk and go to a division rival, and instead they decided to pay Austin Eckler. we have DeAndre Hopkins. And Derek, who picked Derrick Henry in the first round, follows it up with Miles Sanders. So now it is my spot again, and I'm looking. I'm looking at two players. I'm looking at whether or not I do want to go with a wide receiver, or whether or not I do want to continue my running back trend. And again, I love the value of the wide receivers in the third and fourth round a lot better than I like the value of the running backs. And I still do have a top 10 running back on my personal rankings, and that's Kenyon Drake. So I will take Kenyon Drake here to pair up with Joe Mixon. Kenyon Drake, we saw when he was traded to the Cardinals last year, the impact he had on that team, and the fact that they were willing to utilize him so heavily right away, and the fact that he fit right away. I mean, it's tough not to like this Arizona Cardinals offense. Obviously, they bring in DeAndre Hopkins. People may think that may bring down the workload for Kenyon Drake. I still think that this is going to be such a fast offense. They're going to have so many plays. There's still going to be plenty for Kenyon Drake. Aaron Jones goes at pick 206. Aaron Jones looks. I know there were rumors earlier on about whether or not Aaron Jones was going to be signing an extension. Hasn't been finalized yet, but if Aaron Jones does get that extension, I think that takes a big hit to the AJ Dillon owners, especially in Dynasty. James Conner goes off the board at 208. And let's see. So now we have Chris Godwin as the fifth wide receiver off the board at 209. Julio Jones finally off the board at 210. To LaRon, who follows up with his first round pick of Russell Wilson with Julio Jones. Obviously, I think that's the much better value. And now we're coming to Ben, and he follows up Saquon Barkley with George Kittle. A lot of people, including myself, do have Kittle over Kelsey. I think with the uncertainty of Deebo Samuel and some of the other pass catchers in San Francisco, I think George Kittle is going to be relied upon even more. I do think Travis Kelce is still going to be great, but we're expecting the emergence of Mecole Hardman in his second year. Sammy Watkins had a great playoff run last year, and so that may cut into some of the Travis Kelce. We do have who is that? I believe that is Shelby with the 2-3 turn, taking Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So there's your Kansas City connection right there. Again, Travis Kelce's still going to get his. I don't think anyone's disputing that. If you're going to have an early stack, I think that's probably one of my favorite stacks to have. Again, but I'm not an early round quarterback drafter, so I don't necessarily, and I will never draft a quarterback and a tight end in the first 6 picks. It's just going to deplete your roster in the other positions that you play multiple players of at the same time. At the 302, Allen Robinson. 303, we have Todd Gurley. The 304 rookie, Jonathan Taylor. There's a lot of buzz about Jonathan Taylor maybe taking over the starting role earlier on in the season that people originally thought. Kenny Galladay and DJ Moore. So those were the two wide receivers that I was hoping for. Unfortunately, they didn't make it to me. So here I am now, and I do have Joe Mixon, Kenyon Drake. I could just sure up having the best backfield and take someone like a Chris Carson. But right now, I think the value on Mike Evans is to get him at 307. I think is terrific. The Tampa Bay offense, we're expecting a lot of things from. Mike Evans is the closest thing physically to Randy Moss that Tom Brady has had since Randy Moss. I think Mike Evans is due for a big year, so I will take him there at the 307. Derek is now on the board, and he started off with Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, and follows it up with Lamar Jackson. So Lamar Jackson going off the board at 308, which is later than we see him go off the board usually. So for the people who do like drafting the quarterbacks early, especially someone like a Lamar Jackson, that's really good value. So I really can't complain about that draft spot for Lamar Jackson. Ahmed follows it up with Le'Veon Bell. Adam Thielen goes at 310 to Jared. So Jared now has Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, and Adam Thielen. So he has two Vikings in his first three picks. Not necessarily the route I go. But if you're going to go a wide receiver and a running back earlier on, there are worse combinations that you could have than Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook. Thielen is now the clear number one in Minnesota with Stephon Diggs being traded to Buffalo. Mark Ingram goes off the board at 311. That's the earliest I've seen Mark Ingram go off the board in any of my drafts so far this year. Chris Carson rounds out the third round to Clark. So Clark now has Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Chris Carson, and he follows up with Melvin Gordon to open up the fourth round. Tyrone then takes Odell Beckham. So he's got Michael Thomas and Odell Beckham at wide receiver, Nick Chubb, Mark Ingram at running back. Jared comes back with Mark Andrews. I was all over Mark Andrews last year. Mark Andrews and Darren Waller were the two tight ends that I was drafting everywhere last year. I'm just not drafting them this year because I think they're going a little too early for the value that I would be looking to get. All right, so now I'm on the board after Terry McLaurin and A.J. Brown go. Again, two guys that I would have loved to have had in this spot right here. There's a couple terrific values I feel at wide receiver right now. You have Juju Smith-Schuster. You have Cooper Kupp, but you also have the Cowboys wide receiver. Got Amari Cooper. Tyler Lockett is Russell Wilson's favorite target. I'm afraid of Roethlisberger's injury history. I know the connection that Lockett and Russell Wilson have, so I'm going to take Tyler Lockett there at pick 306. Amari Cooper goes off the board to Adam next. Adam's got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper. Sounds like a team that I would draft at that given point too. Um, I really like some of the values that he has found there. Got Alexis taking Juju Smith-Schuster at pick 308, 408. I'm sorry. Tommy taking Cortland Sutton at 409. So Tommy's got a start of Alvin Kamara, Chris Godwin, Jonathan Taylor, Cortland Sutton. Sutton, I love the talent of Cortland Sutton. It's just a hit or miss with what he's going to get out of his quarterback towards the end of the year when we saw Drew Lock finally get into some games. There wasn't a great connection between Lock and Sutton, but then we've heard during the training camp that they've had a pretty good connection. So we'll see what we see there. All right. So now LeBron is he opened up with Russell Wilson, Julio Jones, and Todd Gurley, and now I think at least I hope it was just an auto draft because he gets Deshaun Watson, and having two quarterbacks in a one quarterback league and take up two of your first four picks is just not a strategy that's going to win very often. David Johnson goes to Ben at 311. Cooper Kupp rounds out the fourth round at pick 412. Shelby then opens up the fifth round. Raheem Mostert. I love the value of Mostert. I mean, a lot of people are worried about Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon. Hey, we saw when the 49ers gave Mostert the ball, he was an absolute beast. And for him I definitely prefer Mostert to someone like a David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, Le'Veon Bell, Mark Ingram. So some of these guys that he went after, I would prefer Raheem Mostert. Ben takes Drew Brees at the second pick of the fifth round. Gonna need to message LaRon, see what's going on. We are going to be bringing on some of the staff members very shortly to discuss some of their opening picks. So it'll be fun to hear whether or not their strategy played out the way that they had wanted, or whether or not they had to zig because someone else zagged. All right, looks like maybe LeBron had lost some of maybe lost his connection. Now he gets Zach Ertz at 503. So now he has two quarterbacks and a tight end in his first five picks. Not the way I draft. J.K. Dobbins goes to Tommy at pick 504, and there's a lot of talk coming out of Ravens camp that J.K. Dobbins is going to have a significant role even early on in the year. Again, J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, we thought that they were in very similar spots where we thought by the end of the season they would take over, but we didn't know what their value would be earlier on. Cam Akers and Robert Woods goes. Robert Woods is my favorite fifth round target. There are times I even take him in the fourth round. I was considering Robert Woods at the pick that I picked, Tyler Lockett. So right now I'm looking at who I think is the best value. It can be running back or wide receiver. I've got two of each right now. And there's one name that just sticks out clearly, and that's DJ Chark. He is the target in Jacksonville. We saw the connection that him and Gardner Minshew had right from the start. DJ Chark was much better with Gardner Minshew than he was with Nick Foles. And to get someone who I think can be a top 12 wide receiver in the 5th round, I'm going to take that value all day. Then we have Derek following that up with Calvin Ridley. Ahmed is now on the board, and Ahmed's got a very nice start to his team. Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Hopkins, Le'Veon Bell, and Terry McLaurin. All right. So while we wait on, here Ahmed comes in with DK Metcalf again. Metcalf, especially towards the end of the year last year, really emerged. He was someone that after the combine, a lot of people thought he was going to go top half of the 1st round. He ends up falling to the back end of the 2nd round of the NFL draft and falls into just a great spot with Seattle. I would have considered Metcalf if Chark was off the board. Hollywood Brown goes to Jared at pick 510, and Tyrone is now on the clock. As wait for someone from the all right. So we actually do have one of our Back Sports Page members, Adam Teisch. Adam, how you doing, my
I'm
friend?
here to talk trash, Ryan. You vultured me so many times in our mock draft. Pick after pick. You took the guy I was about to auto draft in my queue. I haven't been watching the stream because I've been focused on my little phone down here with the picks. I'm hoping I'm doing the same to you.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
you sniped me twice. You sniped me with
more.
In fact, actually, the 3 times that you picked before me, I would have taken those players. I would have taken Clyde Edwards-Helaire if he were there. I would have taken DJ Moore if he were there. I would have taken Robert Woods if he were there. So the 3 times you've picked in front of me, you took the exact player that was at the top of my queue. So I applaud you for your good drafting, at least in my eyes.
Revenge is sweet, dude. Although, like, for me, you had one of Chark or Woods. Like, that's not an awful consolation prize. I'm totally high on Chark as well.
It absolutely wasn't. So tell me, how do you feel about the starts of your draft? You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Aaron Jones in your backfield, DJ Moore, Maury Cooper, Robert Woods to start out wide. How do you like that start? Is that the sort of how you were hoping it was going to fall, or did you sort of flip-flop along the way?
I mean, there wasn't a lot of room for me to flip-flop. I knew I wanted to start with 2 running backs. Was a little disappointed in Aaron Jones, but to me, he's kind of the last of the true RB2 tiers that I felt like I could trust. So, like, my hands were tied there, even though I would have wanted, say, a Miles Sanders or a Kenyon Drake. The only thing that really went off the rails for me was the Amari Cooper pick. Obviously, super talented wide receiver, but I was kind of hoping Lev Bell would be falling to me there. And he went a couple of picks before I could scoop him up, which was a little disappointing, but I'm not super upset about it. I mean, it's Amari Cooper. Who am I to complain?
Right. And I mean, we all know that that's going to be one of the more high-flying offenses. The only thing that would worry me about Cooper is the emergence of 2 targets that weren't there last year in CeeDee Lamb or Blake Jarwin, who was there but did not get the opportunity that he's going to have this year.
I don't have his contract in front of me, but I know that the Dallas Cowboys are paying Amari Cooper a buttload of money. I don't know
5
if
years,
that's
100 million.
I don't know if that's like a term you can really put on an amount of cash. But to me, they're already paying him. And I don't think the Cowboys are going to view him as a sunk cost. To me, all that work really comes out of Michael Gallup. And I think the CD Lamb hype is overblown in terms of targets. I think the talent's definitely there. But I don't see him
I do
gobbling up
think we
targets
are.
like most do.
I do think we're a year away from CD Lamb really emerging. I do think Michael Gallup is still number 2 in targets on that team. All right,
Do you
so
want him? You're up here.
yeah, I am up here. So after Jared took Hollywood Brown, we had Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Stephon Diggs, Zach Moss, and Kareem Hunt. So right now I would tend to look to my running back position. Unfortunately, I just don't see many, and there's really only one name that I would have considered, but some of the news over the past couple days is really making me a little hesitant over drafting some of the guy I was looking at. So I'm going to look to just have the best wide receiver core I think you can have while starting 2 wide receivers. I'm going to take Devonta Parker here. There was a little bit of an injury scare, but he's now healthy, and Ryan Fitzpatrick's healthy, and we saw what that combination did last year, led to a top 10 for Parker.
Hey, so you know all that stuff you just said about CeeDee Lamb not digging into Michael Gallup's targets? You just swayed me. I'm going to take Michael Gallup here. I don't love I don't love stacking receiver cores, to be honest with you. But if there's one offense that I really just want to pile on, it's the Cowboys this year. And so I'm fine, even if it's just injury insurance for Amari Cooper, I'm
I was going to
totally
say
fine rolling Gallup and Cooper out there together.
you're going to be able to get production from both of them in a given week on top of basically he's a handcuff. If Amari Cooper gets hurt, which he's done plenty of times in the past, Michael Gallup is probably a top 15 wide receiver.
Sure, it's
And
definitely padding. And even
yeah,
without Cooper there, Gallup puts up numbers. That's just what he does. And in a PPR league, I have my running back set. I'm digging in. I'm getting firsts, I'm getting seconds, I'm getting thirds at the wide receiver dessert buffet. Let's just sweeten the pot for me, man.
and speaking of CD Lamb does go off the board at 6'10". Again, that's earlier than we usually see him go off. But right after you pick Gallup, there was T.Y. Hilton, Darren Waller, then CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Green, who just got the full go from Cincinnati coaches and doctors. I'm really interested to see what this Cincinnati offense looks like this year.
I'm digging the Darren Waller pick there, especially in a PPR league. I think he's going to be one of the few dependable tight ends. I don't really love Zach Ertz this year. So to me, it's just a big four of tight ends that I can truly trust in Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, and Waller. Obviously, I'm not going to draft them similarly, but Waller is kind of the end of, at least for me, he's the end of the dependable tight end run. So now that's something I'm
Yeah.
going to have to think about because I was eyeing him for my return pick.
Darren, see, I was all about Waller last year. I don't have very many shares of him this year. He's going right in that sweet spot of where I want to finish my running back and wide receiver run. and there are other targets. They brought in so many targets this year out there in Vegas. Obviously, I still think he's probably the number one target there. But you had mentioned Zach Ertz, and with everything that's going on in Philly, with everyone not being able to stay on the field, I'm actually looking at Zach Ertz more than I'm looking at Darren Waller this year. To open up the seventh round, Will Fuller, Jordan Howard, Leonard Fournette slips in there at
Heartbroken.
703.
Heartbroken. I was going to take him.
Yeah, that was, hey, we all know what well, at least we are expecting huge things out of that Tampa offense. I still think that Ronald Jones is going to be enough of a thorn in the side of Leonard Fournette that he's not going to be able to give you close to what you're used to getting out of Leonard Fournette. Now, at pick 703, you're not investing in Jacksonville Leonard Fournette. You're now investing in Tampa Leonard Fournette, and I think that was actually pretty good value. And for a team that's had some questionable picks, in my opinion, but you are now on the board, so and take David Montgomery.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't love it.
we're
Don't love it.
we're still a little up in the air about what his status is going to be for week one. There's a chance, not a good one. Now, I did say that there was a player that I was eyeing in the sixth round, but something happened and his value's falling. I gotta go. I can't take the chance that Antonio Gibson falls to the eighth round because I think there is just too much upside from Antonio Gibson. And in the seventh round, I am so much more comfortable with taking him as opposed to the sixth.
So little backstory. I co-manage every fantasy football team I run with my dad. I just texted him a string of about 4 of the most vile cuss words I could imagine because I was hoping he'd fall back to me. I wanted him there, man.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep the stream family friendly. In an actual fantasy football draft with me, that is not a given. So you're welcome, Ryan, and you're welcome, everyone watching at home.
Yeah, I mean the news came out. I think it was even earlier today, or it was yesterday. I'm up 22 hours a day feeding a baby. The only time I get to get away from that is when I have a fantasy football draft. So I cherish these moments. But J.D. McKissick opened up the quote unquote unofficial first depth chart in Washington as the number one running back. I'm not sure what to make of that, but everything that we've heard out of Washington, everything that we've heard from Adrian Peterson, just tells you that Antonio Gibson is the guy that they want to be the feature running back in that system. And then, so after I took Antonio Gibson at pick 707, Jarvis Landry, again, that's great PPR value there. Hunter Henry, Ronald Jones, Tyler Higbee, and Jared Cook round out the seventh round. We're starting to see a little bit of a run on tight ends. I'm fine with being the last person to draft a tight end. There are enough tight ends that are going in the tight end 11, 12, 13 range that I'm comfortable as my starter. So I'm usually one of the last people to take a tight end in my draft. To open up the eighth, Deontay Johnson, James White, Josh Allen. Eighth round for Josh Allen. That's pretty good value.
Yeah, I have my qualms about Allen though in this league format. A 6 point touchdown league kind of devalues rushing a little bit. And I know Allen rakes up the rushing touchdowns, and in a 4 point touchdown league, that props him up a little bit. But because a passing touchdown now is weighted equally with a rushing touchdown, I gotta say I'm cooling on the Stallion a little bit.
Oh, somebody listens to the fantasy footballers.
Well, you listen to the fantasy footballers too, man. Why do you think we like all the same players?
Yeah. All right, so here I am, and again, I can literally go any position. I've got 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers. I could go tight end. I could go quarterback, and I'm probably I want to make sure that I get my guy, and my guy this year is Matt Stafford. Stafford is I in my bold predictions, I said that Stafford is going to be in the top 3 in terms of MVP voting this year.
Interesting. Top 3.
Yes. I just and maybe it's to my own fault, and because if something happens to Stafford, I'm up, what's creek. 'Cause
Sure.
I have so much invested in Stafford, but it's because I have the belief. I have the belief in the system. I have the belief in the talent, and I have the belief in the weapons around him. Kenny Golladay, I was considering at 106, at 206, and he almost made it back to me at 307. I think he is just a supreme talent. Marvin Jones, who I was considering there also, is when he's on the field, he's just production. And I can see the second year tight end, TJ Hawkinson, making a huge leap forward this year.
Totally. I envisioned you getting Hawkinson the second you picked Stafford and touted not late round quarterback, late round tight ends. That seems right up your alley.
Yeah. The 2 stacks that I have the most shares of are Stafford and Jones and Stafford and Hawkinson. I think that stacking isn't necessarily my mindset. I don't look to stack, but when I can get stack at a really good stack at a really good value, yeah, why not? Why not risk it? What's the Bruce Arians quote? No risk it, no biscuit.
There you go. I'm contemplating over this next pick, man. I've got a decent amount of buffer for time, but pressure's on here.
Yeah, so
There are
you
a
ended up
couple of names
going.
I'm looking
You ended
at.
up going Julian Edelman after I had picked Matt Stafford.
Yeah, not a spectacular
The,
pick, but
the, the,
number one
this
target on a Patriots offense that's going to be passing the ball a ton.
Yeah, and I just don't know what to expect from this offense. How much we all know it's going to look different, but how different is it going to look going from Tom Brady to Cam Newton? Cam Newton has had success with both kinds of wide receivers. He's had success with those big targets on the outside, with Kelvin Benjamin, with Devin Funchess, some of these guys that wouldn't have necessarily been any good without Cam Newton getting him the ball. But he's also had success with someone like a Steve Smith, which is, I think Julian Edelman and Steve Smith are
Very
pretty
similar.
decent comps for each other. Smith did a little bit more on the outside than Edelman does. but I think they're a very similar type of player. So after you take Edelman, we have John Brown, Marvin Jones, the Buffalo defense, Philip Lindsay and Matt Breida to round out the 8th round. The San Francisco defense and Latavius Murray open up the 9th round. So now we're getting into the backup slash pass catching running back portion of the draft. Is there, and you don't have to give me a name, is there a name or two that you are necessarily targeting or really, really hoping falls to you here at your next pick?
Yeah, there is. I'm not going to give you a name. All I'm going to tell you is that he's here and that I think you're going to take him, because if I don't, then I'll be happy. And if you do, then I'll be right. That's all I'm giving you. I was looking at Tariq Cohen, though. I like that pick. Wasn't who I was looking at, but for a PPR league, pretty decent.
Yeah, so that was Tommy. Tommy has quietly had a pretty good draft. Kamara, Chris Godwin, Jonathan Taylor, Cortland Sutton, J.K. Dobbins, Darren Waller, Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, and Tariq Cohen. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that start. Okay, so you decide to go Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz. Yeah, that's who I was looking at. That was my name. I
mean, I wouldn't have being. I'm not one of those guys. I don't take backup quarterbacks in one quarterback leagues. I'll use someone on the waiver wire, especially if I have someone that I trust, like Stafford, season long. I'm okay. I'm okay letting him just ride it out for me. This may be a little bit of a homer pick, but Golden Tate just has not been able to stay healthy. And so I'm looking at the two big targets now for the Giants, and it's Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. I think Darius Slayton has the chance to be the number one target on this team. And to get a team's number one receiver in the 9th round, yeah, I'm gonna take that chance. There was
number
definitely
one
a
in
tight
terms
end
of what? Targets?
in terms of targets and touchdowns.
No. Maybe touchdowns, maybe, but Slayton, to me, he's the two there in targets. I think Shepard out targets him. I think Shepard's honestly a little more talented than Darius Slayton. I'm not a huge fan of that. And I'm a Giants fan too. Like I would have picked Shepard there.
I just watched the connection that Daniel Jones had with each of those players last year. And again, there weren't many times that both Shepard and Jones were on the field at the same time, but we were able to see the connection that Slayton had with him. And I think if there's something wrong with Golden Tate, teams are going to view Sterling Shepard as the number one, which I think is going to open up a better target share, in my opinion, for someone like Darius Slayton, because I'm not sure Sterling Shepard is equipped to handle number one cornerbacks in this league.
By the way, I am a terrible Giants fan, considering I've drafted 2 Cowboys and the Eagles quarterback.
So I had a 16-team draft last night, and it's a 16-team league, and it's also the most expensive buy-in that I have for any of my leagues. So it's competitive. It's a 2-keeper league, and my 2 keepers were Ezekiel Elliott and Miles Sanders. And with 2 keepers, that's 32 players being kept. I was able to then get in the second round. I had the 10th pick. So it ended up being, I think, 207. Terry McLaurin fell in my lap. So I three of my first four players are a Cowboy, an Eagle, and a Redskin, or
There
a
you go.
football teamer.
A football team.
A football
I
teamer.
think, by the way, I don't know if we've discussed on air after the switch for the Washington football team. I want them to go totally in on just generic branding and have that kind of be the thing. Because I
Yeah.
think to be relevant in 2020, you kind of have to become a meme as a sports team, right? Like that's why everyone knows the Seattle Kraken is in
Yeah.
the NHL is just because their name's funny. And so to me, if
Right.
I'm the Washington football team, like call the fan section the fans, like start the most generic chants you can, and then just get
Let's
everyone in
go
on rooting
team.
for the most generic team basically on the face of the planet.
Yeah,
I
like
think
a
that would sell.
go team, go. I mean,
Sure. And
what's
they'll
more
suck.
generic than go team, go?
Yeah, and they'll suck, but that's fine. You know, with the power of memes on your side.
Yeah,
Also, Jerry Judy. I don't know who that was that just sprung up for him, but
that
that's
that was
interesting.
Tyrone. Tyrone
Got it.
takes Jerry Judy at 10:02. After I took Slayton, there was Cooks, Debo Samuel, who I was considering at the pick. I took Slayton, Tom Brady, Kerryon Johnson, Baltimore defense to round out the ninth. Then Crowder, Judy, Mecole Hardman, Sony Michel, and Hayden Hurst in the 10th round. So now I am up, and I'm ready to take my tight end, and I'm one of the bigger upside guys, a guy that I do have a lot of shares in. Between Hawkinson and this guy, um, I'm going to take Mike Gesicki here. Again, I'm usually one of the last people to draft a tight end, and right now it's only, I believe, you and Alexis that don't have a tight end yet. So I wasn't the last, but I was among the last. But I wanted to jump on Gesicki there.
I was waiting to see if you do that because I don't know if that was gamesmanship on your part, but I was like, all right, Gasicki's safe. I can pick Gasicki. And so you swooped me there a little bit. But I would not be a man of my word if I didn't take Sterling Shepard,
So,
considering I will just wait on tight ends from here on out.
yeah, so again, I'm one of those guys. I won't draft a backup quarterback. I won't draft a backup tight end. I won't draft the backup defense. Um, the only time I will consider drafting a backup tight end is if I'm literally taking two in the last 3 rounds, where I don't necessarily have somebody I'm confident starting week in, week out. Then I would consider drafting two tight ends. But with Gesicki right now, I have enough faith in him to be my only tight end that I'm going to roster in this draft.
By the way, Alexis
Um,
just took Gronk. So now I'm the only person tight endless in this
yeah,
entire league.
yeah, and I have to be honest. I have 0 shares of Rob Gronkowski this year. I
Yeah,
have
it's
more
gross.
I have more shares of his backup tight end than I do. I have more shares in OJ Howard than I have in Rob Gronkowski, only because in my 16 team league, which has 8 bench spots, I mean it's just 19 rounds of 16 teams. There is very little left at the end of those drafts. So I stashed OJ Howard because he's 3 years removed from being a first round draft pick. So So after you take Sterling Shepard, we said Gronk went, then Preston Williams, Tony Pollard, Minnesota defense, which is one of the defenses that I've been drafting more often, and Emmanuel Sanders to round out the 10th. To open the 11th, Blake Jarwin goes to that's Shelby. So now Shelby has two tight ends on his team with Travis Kelce and Blake Jarwin.
Wow,
We
you're
were
backing
talking,
up Kelsey.
we were talking about roster construction, and I was saying how I usually don't have a backup tight end. When I will never have a backup tight end is when I have Kittle or Kelsey.
Yeah,
I
this is
will. I
ridiculous.
will. Yeah. I just will not have a backup tight end when I have one of the two of them.
I'm freaking out
Eight.
over here. Someone's got Kelsey and picks a backup that they're going to start once. Someone picks Darren
Yeah.
Waller and is like, oh, you know who I'm going to pick up here? Jonnu Smith.
John
When are
Smith.
you
Yeah.
ever going to start Jonnu Smith over Darren Waller? You're
Never.
never going to do it.
No.
It's a waste of a pick and a
Yeah.
waste of a player that I was about to maybe select. But it's human economics. We're not rational consumers. That's all I'm gonna say.
So you decide to go with Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds. I'm just gonna
Talk
say,
to me.
okay,
Talk. Yeah. Talk to me about that one.
let everyone take their backup third string tight ends. Fortunately, I think the tight end pool for late rounders is really deep. I can always bank on a Hawkinson or a Hooper or even someone like a Noah Fant, who, by the way, I know he's young. He's really good at football. Okay. Noah
Yeah.
Fant is a freak out there. Irv Smith, Ian Thomas. I'm fine with any of those. So, y'all, go ahead. Go do your thing. I'm going to sit back here and win this fantasy league by actually picking players that might start for me. Chase Edmonds, I know I don't often subscribe to the theory of not handcuffing other people's running backs, but Chase Edmonds does work when he sees the field. He ripped up the Giants last year. Arizona is
Yeah.
very fickle, but their running back position is extremely valuable. If Drake goes down, or even if Edmonds just decides to eat into some of Drake's share of the load, by the way, Kenyon Drake, he's fine. He's okay. Of the running backs going in the top two rounds, I'd say Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably the least talented, but he's just in a great situation. And then I'd say Kenyon Drake is probably the second least talented. Edmonds is good at football. And I just think he has a couple of paths to opportunity that I don't want to pass up, especially because I only have three running backs on my squad. That situation's not looking great if one of mine goes down.
Yeah. So I was in the same spot as you. I had three running backs on my roster with the guy that you just had to rip from here to nowhere, Kenyon Drake, and Joe Mixon alongside Antonio Gibson. I took someone who I know is going to when he's on the
Oh,
field. When he's on the field, Chris Thompson is going to produce in PPR. He's been running with the red zone offense in Jacksonville training camp. That tells you all you need to know. Again, we're hearing James Robinson, who goes two picks later,
love
is at
that
the top
pick.
of the unofficial depth chart. The guy that I love most out of in terms of talent for ball carriers, I love Devine Ozigbo. I think he's gonna have a chance to be the leading ball carrier for Jacksonville. But Jacksonville's going to be trailing all the time. And what happens when you're trailing? You throw the ball and a lot of dump offs to the running back because you start to see defenses play more prevent, play off the line, and there's going to be a ton of value for a PPR running back in that system. And Chris Thompson, and again, Chris Thompson needs to stay healthy. He's never done it in his career, but if he does, he's going to produce.
Laviska Chenault. That's who you just made the argument for. You didn't make an argument for Chris Thompson because you just made the argument
No,
against Chris Thompson, and it's totally correct.
no,
Laviska Shenault,
no,
baby. I'm not going to take
no,
him. I have too many wide receivers already, but I'm a big Laviska
no,
believer.
no, not this year. I won't take Laviska this year. In fact, there is a rookie wide receiver that has not been taken that I am going to take if he's still there. It would be my sixth wide receiver, but he's somebody who I think has the chance to be the number one rookie wide receiver this year, and he is still available. And if anyone has listened to my podcast, you'll know exactly how in love I am with Bryan Edwards.
I like it.
Bryan Edwards is already the X receiver in Raiders training camp. He's the number one X receiver for an NFL offense. I don't know if you know this stat about Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards had one of the 10 best seasons by an SEC wide receiver when he was 17 years old. He turned 18 in the middle of the season, but when he was 17 going on 18, his freshman year at South Carolina, he had one of the 10 best seasons that was ever put up by an SEC wide receiver. This kid has talent up the wazoo. I am drafting Bryan Edwards on every team I own because
Yeah,
he's
and
just
we
not
know Gruden can be fickle
he's
like
not
that.
costing anything. He does not cost anything, and I believe in the talent.
Sure. I mean, you're not even mentioning the Tyrell Williams absence, right?
Right. Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a great
He took
situation for
over.
Edwards.
He took over Tyrell Williams, and when Tyrell Williams was on the field, he was productive. Obviously, we're expecting the offense to run through Josh Jacobs, but would it shock me if Bryan Edwards is the leading receiver on the Raiders? Absolutely not. In fact, I'm expecting it. I'm expecting him to be that leader. We did have some picks in between while we were going on and on and on. After
I
I
like
picked Chris
mine. I'm
Thompson,
pretty satisfied with mine.
yeah, I like that one.
Dalvin
But
Cook doesn't have
after
a
I picked,
contract, people. I'm gonna start being the holdout whisperer. You know, even if it
uh,
just means I'm holding someone hostage.
after I picked Chris Thompson, Deshaun Jackson, James Robinson, the Patriots defense, Darrell Henderson or Darnell Anderson goes at 11-11, and Austin Hooper to round out the 11th. And to open the 12th, we have N'Keal Harry. Again, N'Keal Harry is someone that I have on a bunch of teams. I'm just not going to draft 7 wide receivers. So N'Keal Harry was just not someone I was considering the way that this played out. But he's very similar physically to Kelvin Benjamin, pre-Benjamin eating Kelvin Benjamin. But he's got a very similar game to what Benjamin had. So I do think Harry has the chance to break out this year. Then the Bears defense, Duke Johnson, Anthony Miller, and Cam Newton. Although Jared, even though I continue to tell Jared to not draft more than one quarterback, he always does.
I
That
don't
boy
mind the
needs to
Burrow
listen.
pick, honestly.
But I was shocked that Cam Newton wasn't one of the quarterbacks Jared took. Then I took Edwards, and you went with Alexander Madison. You brought up the fact that Dalvin Cook doesn't have a contract right now. Now, this is a redraft league, not a keeper. What sort of And I just don't see anybody holding out because of the financial ramifications that come alongside it this year. But I I don't think it's necessarily because of a holdout. I think that it's a good pick because I think Madison has the chance to produce even with Dalvin Cook healthy. If he does stay healthy, I think they're going to try and alleviate some of the touches Dalvin Cook gets, which is why I'm just not drafting Dalvin Cook anywhere. I had him available to me at the 7th pick, and I passed on him. Uh, I love the talent of Madison.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm not starting Madison unless Dalvin Cook is out, but I'm not starting any running back I pick here unless a miracle happens. And Dalvin Cook doesn't have a contract. I'm going to keep repeating that. I'm probably going to Dalvin Cook doesn't have a contract myself to sleep tonight. And Dalvin Cook gets hurt. This happens every year, and it's why I don't want him on any of my squads. Is because you are not getting 16 weeks. I mean, in the case of this season, you're not getting 17 weeks out of Dalvin Cook. And so for me, I'm just going to swoop in with Madison, and he's going to get starting snaps at some point. To me, it's a guarantee. I just don't know when.
See, this is Tommy actually proved why late round quarterbacks is the way to go. He lined up a solid team through the first 10 rounds. We're now in the 13th round, and he decides to take his quarterback, and he gets Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the value on quarterbacks is just so absurd. It's a great pick.
I don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was not inspiring last year.
Right, but we're not expecting. He's not expecting Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers of 2015. That's why he's going where he is going.
Sure,
All
but
right, so
even then, I want to gamble.
I'm now going
I'll
to
let
look
you draft,
to
and then I will argue against you.
Yeah, I'm going to look to shore up my running back situation. I loved Damian Harris till he got hurt. Again, I mentioned it, and Devine Ozigbo has the opportunity to be the starting running back and get starting running back carries. Again, I'm not sure what to make of this whole Reichwell Armstead COVID-19 thing. I mean, they had taken him off the COVID-19 list and then put him back on and said that it was not looking good for a quick turnaround for him to come back. Maybe he got hit with the virus a little bit harder than most have been getting hit with, and it can give the opportunity for Ozigbo to make his name heard.
Can I toot my own horn a little bit here?
Yeah, absolutely.
This may not be his year. May not be his year. Okay, that's fine. But if you don't pull up playerprofiler.com's Noah Fant page on the stream, it's not safe for work. Okay? You know how I said I'm going to Dalvin Cook doesn't have a contract myself to sleep at night? Well, I think I'm going to wallpaper my room with Noah Fant's measurables because they're off the charts. It's Kittle-esque.
Him and Gesicki, the two tight ends that we drafted, Fant and Gesicki, are the spark score champions of the tight end position.
I love it, but for me, right, Gesicki has, at least right now, he has Fitzpatrick chucking the ball downfield to Devontae Parker. Now, if I remember correctly, you have Devontae Parker. So
I do have Parker. Yeah, I have Parker as my 4th wide receiver.
But I don't trust Drew Lock to chuck the ball deep. You know, I trust him to throw kind of a lot more into the shorter and intermediate routes. That's why I like Cortland Sutton. I didn't end up drafting him, but he's super talented. And to me, right, Denver's pickups they don't take away anything in the short to intermediate routes. Judy, as a rookie wide receiver, he'll be fine, but not going to vulture away too much volume. KJ Hamler got a lot of talk pre-draft due to his 40 score, but that's a field stretcher. Noah Fant's just golden. And I this may not be the year for him, but there will be a year for him. And I want to attach myself to that train while I still can.
So I want you, and I don't know if you've done it, but look at the numbers that Cortland Sutton put up after Drew Lock took over. I had mentioned it before you had joined the stream. They're not pretty.
Really?
Cortland Sutton was not very productive once Drew Lock took over.
To be fair, Drew Lock was not very productive once Drew Lock took over.
No, he wasn't. And I know this is a lot different where now he's coming into a season and getting all of the first team reps. He didn't have that luxury last year. But Drew Lock, maybe it's just because I am not sold on Drew Lock as a quarterback that I'm not sold on his targets.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull up a stat. Here we go. Let's see. Does he qualify? Okay, so small sample size, 5 games. I have to pay attention because there is a draft going on after all.
Yeah.
In terms of yards per attempt, out of 33 quarterbacks, and I say 33 because Drew Lock's 5 games didn't really qualify him, 6.5 yards per attempt would put him only ahead of Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. That's good for tight ends. You can't tell me that's bad for a tight end. Even if you say right now, Adam, I'm telling you, terrible for a tight end. You can't tell it to me, right?
It isn't great for a seam stretching tight end, which I think Fant is.
Fant can
it's
do
what he
everything,
projected
though.
to be. Can he?
I think so.
He wasn't even the best tight end on his college team.
Well, because hang on, Ryan. Do you want to tell him? Do you want to tell everyone who the best tight end on I almost gave it with it on Noah Fant's college team was?
Yeah, it was T.J. Hawkinson.
Was T.J. Hawkinson? I really don't know about that. Okay, fair. No, Hawkinson was picked above him.
Hawkinson was the eighth overall pick in the draft. I mean, I know Fant went 20.
Do you know if Kittle and Fant overlapped at Iowa at all?
I'm not. I don't know, and I can't say with enough positivity a yes or no.
They were teammates for a season.
Okay, but that probably would have been Kittle's senior year and Fant's freshman year.
Yes, that's true. Totally cherry picked. Let's see. Anything interesting? I like the Damian Harris pick. I was looking at that, especially because this league has like enough IR slots to fill up a sitcom cast.
I was considering Harris at the spot that I picked Ozigbo. I'm now afraid that I loved Damian Harris a week ago. I was taking him wherever I could last week. I'm just afraid that now there's going to be enough work that goes to the other guys that he's going to have a tougher time getting on the field. Now, there's also a good chance that Sony Michel sucks like he did last year, and they're just begging for him to come back onto the field.
I'm just hoping
so now
I'm
on the clock. I got about 20 seconds. I'm going to look to shore up the my running back slot, and I'm going to sort of handcuff myself with the guy who
Ugh.
right now is the number one guy on the depth chart in Washington, and I handcuff Antonio Gibson with J.D. McKissick.
So we are in round 14 now.
We are in round 14. Got
by
one
by my
round left.
calculations of looking at the screen.
Yeah.
I would be a bad Giants fan if I didn't take Daniel Jones here, right?
Okay.
Because Carson Wentz, I think, gives you a consistent baseline at quarterback play, and the only reason you're going to take a backup there is explosive potential. And Daniel Jones might be awful this year. He could be god awful, and trust me, when he was drafted, that's what everyone thought was going to happen. But Daniel Jones likes to chuck the ball, and I see some Jameis Winston potential here from Daniel Jones this year with the Giants. And at this point, it's the 14th round. I would just be kicking myself if he started going off and I had passed on him there.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that's Daniel Jones is a perfect player to take as a backup quarterback. One, because his opening schedule against defenses is atrocious. He opens up the season against the Steelers, the Bears, the 49ers, the Rams. Now, the Rams are still middle of the pack, but I still think they're an above average defense. But you're looking at the Steelers, the Bears, and the 49ers. That's three of the top 6 defenses in the league.
Yeah, that's a murderer's row, full stop.
I don't necessarily, especially in a one quarterback league, I'm not looking to draft a quarterback that is going to have the start to a season like that. So here, now you're giving yourself, Carson Wentz has a much easier opening to the season. You can play Wentz for the first 3 or 4 games of the year, assuming he stays healthy. And then once Daniel Jones's schedule lightens up after week 4, Daniel Jones can easily go on to a top 12, top 10 quarterback season after that. So if I were going to take a backup quarterback, Daniel Jones is definitely someone that I would have looked into. And especially, I mean, you're getting him, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You
I'm
got him
fine
at
with just
QB
the QB a
19.
lot.
You got him at QB 19. I know there are definitely some people who their lives depend on their fantasy output that have Daniel Jones as a top 12 quarterback this year. You got him at QB 19. Yeah, if I were going to be drafting a backup quarterback, that's the exact kind of player that I'd be looking to draft.
How
And
many
especially
defenses are off the
Daniel.
board?
How many what?
How many defenses are off the board right now?
Let's
I'm
see.
curious about that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, yeah, that actually looks like more defenses than I thought.
7, 8. Well, yeah,
Anyways,
there are two. There
I
are
saw the
two
Rams down
teams.
here.
There are 2 teams that have 2 defenses already.
Really? And the Rams aren't off the board.
Yeah.
I would have thought with Donald and Ramsey, someone would have scooped him up. Now I know why they haven't. It's because they played Dallas week 1, and anyone who has the week 1 schedule up in front of them knows to stay away from that. But I just would have thought that someone, especially if they're rostering like a backup defense, I think the Rams defense makes a lot of sense in terms of like getting you points, maybe not on points allowed, but just for playmaking, sacks, interceptions, as the Rams go off the pick before me.
Let's see, Alexis must be listening to or watching the stream.
Well, that's fine. I wasn't going to take the Rams. I was gonna
I know.
I was gonna
Once
take
you
the
said,
Eagles.
once you said, first week schedule, I said, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna take the Eagles.
Yeah. Like I was thinking about, let's see, who else? I can help you out here if you'd like. I'll be nice. I was thinking about Tennessee. They're on the board playing Denver. I was thinking about Indianapolis. They're on the
Uh,
board playing Jacksonville. You got
I
options.
mean, literally, they were the team I had highlighted. So yeah, Indianapolis, and they're in a division that you can start them against pretty much. I mean, Houston is a tougher matchup, but you're going to start them against Jacksonville. I'm not scared enough of the Tennessee offense to not start Indianapolis against them. So there's 4 matchups right there that you're comfortable starting, and I think that, and they have the best linebacker in the league in Darius Leonard. Um, uh, don't at me, but
I was gonna
I
say,
love
I
Darius
don't
Leonard.
know a ton about football, but even I was like, really? I guess so.
And,
Like
the,
Wagner. Now that Kuechly's out of the league, like wouldn't Wagner be the popular pick
uh,
there? I don't know who would be adding you.
Wagner's probably one of the top, probably number 2 for me, but I love
Okay.
Darius Leonard. To wrap up, the last round was Larry Fitzgerald, Paris Campbell, Brandon Ayuk, and the KC defense, the Rams defense, Eagles defense, Colts defense. Devonta Freeman, who still doesn't have a team, goes in the 15th. Darrell Williams, Trey Burton, who is on the IR, goes to Jared as his 4th tight end.
That's a strategy. I thought that was a joke. I thought you were just making fun of Jared there. No, he has four
No,
tight
no.
ends.
It was his 4th tight end. He has Mark Andrews, Chris Herndon, OJ Howard. Although we did get a little glimpse into Jared's night right before the draft started in our team chat. That
That's true. I almost named my
he
team
is not
drunk
of
text from
sound
Jared.
mind right now.
I almost named my team drunk text from Jared. I'm trying to
Jared,
look
we
at some
love you.
teams here
We love you,
that
Jared.
are scaring me. I mean, I think your team probably scares me the most, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on air with you. A lot hanging in the balance of the Mike Evans pick, um, but you have like so many wide receivers that just are going to be steady that I think that's fine. Um,
Yeah, and see that this I brought up the projected standings, and this is what I want to urge people to not look at,
oh no,
because they're going to look at this, and here I am ranked at number 11, and oh my God, he's
you never want
why are
that.
we listening to someone who had the 11th? You want to know why? It's because I only took one quarterback. Look at this. Look at right here. I only took one quarterback. Everyone else up here, the reason why they are so much further ahead of me, they took 2. They only get to play 1 a week. So don't worry about these standings. Worry about the team that you have drafted and make sure that it's constructed the right way. Again, I didn't draft any backup quarterbacks, tight ends, or defenses. If you do, I'm not holding anything against you, but know your format. If you only have to play 1 and it's a 12-team league, even if all of the other 11 teams have a backup, that means there are a total of 23 that had been drafted. There's still going to be a starter for for what's that? Another 9 teams that is going to be available. Don't back yourself into the corner with these one position players. I mean, you look at here, my backups. All it is wide receivers and running backs. Antonio Gibson, Darius Slayton, Chris Thompson, Brian Edwards, Devine Ozigbo, J.D. McKissick. Go to. Let me pull up your team real quick. Here we go. Carson Wentz, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Aaron Jones, Noah Fant, Robert Woods, and Michael Gallup in your flex. Then your bench, again, strong players on your bench, especially this year, are of utmost importance because we don't know when games are going to get canceled. We don't know if games are going to get canceled. We don't know if certain players are going to be held out. So a strong bench this year is just, again, like I said, in these multiple position spots is of the utmost importance. So you have the Bears starting running back, you have Julian Edelman, projected probably the Giants' number one receiver. Again, we see things differently. And then you
Yeah, and I'm
have
going to ask you to pump the brakes in a second. Go through my team, tell everyone how fantastic it is, and then we need to talk, Ryan.
Okay.
Because yeah,
okay.
tell everyone.
Go.
Okay,
But I mean,
will go.
I really like Chase. I like the Madison pick more than I like the Edmonds pick. And again, if you're
You were
going
just
to
about
take a
to
backup
take
quarterback,
Edmonds. Stop it.
what?
You told me you were about to take Chase Edmonds right before I took Chase Edmonds. Did you
I
not?
never took Chase Edmonds.
Well, I mean, I took Chase Edmonds, but I thought you said you were interested. That's all.
I said I would have been, but
Well, here's where I take issue with your soliloquy. I think all good points. I just don't think they match your team because here you go, right? Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick on the same team. Only one of them, if either of them materialize, which they may not, they're on the Washington football team, right? Bryce Love exists as well. So you've just hitched your wagon to two players, both of whom I don't think have a very high ceiling. And if a game gets canceled,
I
then you
completely
have two
disagree.
players wiped out on your bench.
I
The
disagree
backfields that you've invested
Gibson.
in are on the two worst teams in the league.
Right, but they're also my
Washington and
backups.
Jacksonville.
They're my backups.
Right.
They're my bench players.
I'm aware, but you draft bench players like for potential.
Right.
I don't think they have much potential. And if you really want to get a lot of if you want to get a lot of if you really want to take a lot of shots, and if you think that having positional depth is important because games are going to get canceled, having 4 bench slots tied up in 2 teams just isn't going to help you as much as having 4 bench slots on 4 teams.
No,
because then cancellation doesn't hurt you as much.
What I'm looking at is I'm looking to get to see the first 2-3 weeks of the season. My team is not going to look like this at the end of the season. I'm looking at the value I was able to get, and I took 4 running backs that have the potential to be starters in the NFL on their given team.
Yes.
Am I wrong or am I?
No, right? You're correct. But you can also be correct in that you took a 29-year-old Chris Thompson who's never made it through a full season, Antonio Gibson, who ran the ball 33 times in his previous college season.
I even said when I drafted Chris Thompson, I said, I need Chris Thompson to do something he had never done before. I don't play fantasy football to be safe. I play to get the highest upside and to win. And if I'm going to get someone, because if Chris Thompson, I don't know if you know, Chris Thompson over the last 3 years, he has missed 20 games in the NFL, he is still the 20th. He's in the top 20 in terms of receptions by a running back. And he's missed 20 games over the last 48. And he's still been that productive as a pass catcher in the league. So again, I said I would need Chris Thompson to stay healthy. If he does, Chris Thompson's going to be an RB2.
Maybe if he's the starter, if he's not
Right,
just their third down back.
Right,
I
but
mean, you want to talk about upside? I have
took
Chase Edmonds and Alexander Madison on my bench, man.
I took where are we? Let me pull up my team again.
I mean, we're arguing amongst the scraps. I will say this is total fantasy nerds. Like, I think my 6th running back is better than your 7th running back type of stuff.
Right, but I took shots on running backs in the 11th, 13th, and 14th rounds that have an opportunity to be the number 1 running back on their team. And
on the 2 worst teams in the league.
It doesn't. Yeah, but a team's record doesn't mean anything when it comes to a team of somebody's fantasy output. Look at DJ Chark last year. DJ Chark was on one of the worst teams in football last year, and he was a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, but he benefits from a negative game script. Now, Leonard Fournette, I could kind of see the argument there.
And Chris Thompson does the exact same thing. Chris Thompson benefits from a negative game script more than Divino Zigbo because of, and even someone like J.D. McKissick too. Chris Thompson is going to benefit from a negative game script more than any double-digit running back that was
absolutely
taken.
And I like that pick by far the most out of the players on your bench. I was definitely high on Thompson. So props there,
which is why in the 11th round it makes so much sense.
Totally.
All right, my friend, we are going to wrap it up. Want to thank everyone for tuning in. We got to see some head-scratching picks, some picks that were taken out right from underneath our fingertips. But it was great to be a part of. Everyone make sure that they are following Backsports Page on all social media outlets. Making sure you're going to backsportspage.com to see all the great content going up, as long as the archives for all of the web shows and podcasts.
Hey, Ryan, you know who your week 1 opponent is?
Is it you?
It's me.
All right, there we go. Oh,
let's go. It's football time.
All right, bud. All right, be well. We will talk soon, everybody. Again, make sure you're tuning in tomorrow. We will have the Zero Technique Football Podcast with our official picks and week one previews. So make sure you're tuning in, and we will catch you tomorrow.